Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to an edition of what I call uh, something I'm trying to do here called um the midnight showing. Uh, it's a something I want to do, like a series of testimonials of like a projectionist testimonial. I used to be a projectionist. I sort of still am, only when it's needed. So I want to talk about like movies, like specific, like anniversaries and just random movies, and talk about like what it was like running them when they first came out. Um, so, I'm gonna try to keep up with this. So the show is called The Midnight Showing, and today we're gonna cover very first episode, the 10th anniversary of The Dark Knight. Today is July 18th, 2018. 10 years ago today, The Dark Knight came out, and it's a movie I ran on film, specifically IMAX film, which was like a big deal for a Hollywood film to utilize IMAX cameras. It revolutionized cinema for a little bit, and to shoot with those cameras and to like have them projected was like a big deal. So 10 years ago today, July 18th, The Dark Knight came out, but I also want to cover the week it was coming out. And I was running it both in 35 millimeter and IMAX 70 millimeter. And this was the first Hollywood film to incorporate IMAX cameras in the shooting of the film. I believe Christopher Nolan, the director, he shot around a half hour's worth of footage. And the first time the footage was like showed to everybody, the December prior, in 2007, there was a movie called I Am Legend that came out in IMAX, and that was a converted IMAX called DMR, and it still looks great. It just kind of like takes the image and they blow it up professionally, and they would project it on the IMAX screen, which is about like 8 stories tall. I guess it can go up to like 9 stories. So they told everybody that the new trailer was going to come out on 35 millimeter prints, and that IMAX prints of I Am Legend were going to have the first 6 minutes, the opening of Dark Knight. And I remember the first time running that opening, and wow, like I was really like taken back. I forgot what real IMAX was, because most IMAX movies were like documentaries throughout the the 90s. Documentaries like 40-minute long documentaries that dealt with like nature, geography, animals, and they were great to see, but they weren't really entertaining. So Hollywood got involved in IMAX in 2002. The first movie was Apollo 13. They re-released in DMR, and from that point on, they released a lot of movies in IMAX, but they weren't able to match up to the image size of IMAX until Christopher Nolan came around and started making movies, and he said, "Hey, I want to shoot the Batman Begins sequel in IMAX." And he shot a half hour's worth of footage, and it's spread throughout the movie, so you'd watch that movie in an IMAX screen, 8 stories tall, and you'd see the image change. The whole screen would be filled up with image, and then it would go back to its normal aspect ratio, and then it would go back to IMAX, back and forth, back and forth. So that was like a big deal. And also that was a big movie. Unfortunately, Heath Ledger passed away. His untimely death drew a lot of attention for that film. He died in January of 2008. And the hype of that movie was growing and growing. So it came out in '08, summer of '08, and the only other big movie that came out was Iron Man. And people were expecting Dark Knight to beat out Iron Man, and it did. And Iron Man was a big movie, and it was also the beginning of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So at that point, Iron Man was just starting out, Marvel was starting out, but Dark Knight came out, and man, number one for like every single weekend after it came out. But that week was crazy. I remember I was working at 2 different movie theaters for the same company, and the theater that had the IMAX did like a special showing, but before it came out, and I missed that showing. So when I was working at that IMAX theater, a few days before it came out, I was like, oh, I spoke to the other projectionist and I said, hey, do you want to run Dark Knight? And he was like, yeah, but I was nervous because it's my second year doing it, and my boss, great guy, tough but fair. He was a hard ass. He really trained me well, to take care of, IMAX. So that's why I got to the point of, like running Interstellar and Dunkirk later on by myself. So we ran a second screening of Dark Knight for about 10, 15 other people, and I had like my friend Matt come, and other people brought their friends, and the rule of law in IMAX is you have to stay up in the projection booth when the movie's running. It's very important. Things can go bad really fast and really like bad. So you have to stay there, but I didn't stay there. I watched the movie, and then a couple of days later, when I was setting up for The Dark Knight, my boss called me, and he said, "Hey Eves, I heard something really disturbing." And I was like, "What's up?" He's like, "I heard you ran that movie, without being up there. Why would you do that? You took a risk. I can't trust you." And it turned into a whole big thing, but nothing not too big. So. Opening weekend came, and the way they set it up, I've never seen it with any other movie other than Dark Knight Rises, which came out 4 years later. They ran the machine 24/7 all weekend and never shut down, so it was constantly busy. Every single show was sold out. Midnight show, 3 a.m. show, 6 a.m. show, and 9 a.m. show. So we all worked crazy shifts. And I had to work between two movie theaters, the IMAX theater and the other, theater for the 35 millimeters. So I took care of the 35 stuff and the IMAX at the same time. And I had to I had very little sleep that weekend. But it was a huge movie, and I was very proud to be a part of it and to run it on film when it first came out, especially the IMAX. That really made a difference, and from that point on, a lot of other filmmakers started using the IMAX cameras, and Transformers did it. The second Transformers shot with IMAX cameras with Michael Bay, and I believe Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol, Brad Bird shot some really fantastic scenes with the IMAX camera. Dark Knight Rises used IMAX cameras. Star Trek Into Darkness, I think, used a little bit of IMAX cameras. What else was there? Interstellar, an hour's worth. Every time Christopher Nolan made a movie, he increased the amount of footage. So thanks to Dark Knight, Hollywood started using IMAX cameras, and they've developed a great relationship with that company. And they're a great company, They have very top-notch techs and, very good quality presentation. It's amazing. But ever since that, you had theaters starting large format and RPX theaters. They had their own answer to IMAX. Regal and AMC and just many others. So yeah, Dark Knight revolutionized cinema around that time. And also, it was the first Batman movie to win an Oscar. Heath Ledger won for Best Supporting Actor. Unfortunately, wasn't there to get it. But that movie really took the comic book concept and turned it into a very realistic adult crime film. And the performances by Gary Oldman and Heath Ledger and Aaron Eckhart were just really, really real actor performances. It was great. So I actually have with me a piece of paper from the 35 millimeter film can, but it also says the format, scope, and IMAX. So you can see that there. Look at that. That's pretty cool. These papers will come with film cans, and it shows you the trailers that came in the can, but not all of them played. And I guess like their other like promotions and posters for stuff like that they had. But this piece of paper is 10 years old, and on the other side is the trailer pack, which I'm gonna. There's some names on top. I don't want to show. You see that? The Dark Knight, and those are the trailers that were attached. If you can read them. Body of Lies, Watchmen, Quantum of Solace, Tropic Thunder, and then you had like the second print. So these are the prints that I built. I know there's a Terminator Salvation trailer there. So, and I also wrote down the print numbers. So yeah, it's amazing that I kept all this. So, I also still have my 35mm trailers for it, right here. 2 different versions. So, and I would say like IMAX tagged and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool. Never used. So these are kind of like souvenirs for me. I'm, to pass down to my family. And I still have, some IMAX footage when they trashed the print. I took, some IMAX footage that I kept. I put it in my little, my museum. So, but yeah, let's celebrate 10 years of Dark Knight. And, yeah, it was a great movie to run on film, and I miss running it. Compared to what's coming out today, right now it would be super busy for a movie, but 10 years ago it was sold out like crazy. Thank you very much for watching. This is an 80s Die Hard production, and enjoy your day and watch Dark Knight again, okay? Bye.